Well, good afternoon and welcome. It is the final day of Bainbridge Company's Week 9 here from the Winter Equestrian Festival. The Hèrmes 1.50m Classic winning round format coming up as our final five-star competition of the weekend. So it is going to be 12 coming back to us for the winning round over a shortened course. It's an interesting format because, of course, we have those 12 will come back in the quality of qualification. They go back to 0 as well. So it's a real opportunity for somebody who sneaks in there to maybe end up with a very, very nice prize fund at the end of the weekend. World ranking points of $62,500 in that prize fund here in the Hèrmes 1.50m Classic. We've got just over 40 on the start list. So actually there's a more than 1 in 4 chance of that coming back to us out of the start list. Gabriel Deats is going to be our first to go, followed by Nayel Bluman, of course, a former WEF 9 Grand Prix winner. Raleigh Hiler went so well here last night. We've got Tom Wachman, one of our winners. He won the WEF Challenge during Week 8. Jake Ward, who led away the Grand Prix last night. Nicola Philippaerts, the winner last year of the Rolex Series Grand Prix of Le Ball for Belgium. Shane Sweetnam, one of the leading riders here, the Michael Smith $25,000 leading international rider bonus up on offer here across the 12 weeks. Ashley Bond, former Week 12 winner. We've got Michael Morrissey. Darragh Kenny, of course, last night's winner. Bliss Heers, Erynn Ballard II. We've got Olivia Cliver, who we saw earlier in the draw last night as well in our Bainbridge Company's Grand Prix. 2 for Canada then. Timm, the Canadian show jumping champion, Olympian Erynn Ballard, Elena Haas, who we saw jump last night. We've got McLain Ward, McLain with the wonderful First Lady just before Stephanie Macieira, double clear in Nations Cup last week. Nina Mallevaey with her part of a great string of her top 3 horses. My Clementine will be her horse for the Hèrmes. Got Callie Schott, Blythe Karolyi, Kraut, Laura and Biscetta in the top 5 last night. We've got Bluman, the winner of the Nations Cup Grand Prix here 12 months ago. Second ride for Nicola Philippaerts, actually just after Kraut is where we're going to take our drag break. Nicola Philippaerts, Darragh Kenny is going to ride Cosmos BH, his class winner from earlier in the week. Timm comes back to us. Then we see Zoe Hank with Tom Wachman's second ride Pegasus. Eduardo Menezes, the Olympian with Macentus, McLain Ward with Le Louvre. Richie Vogel, Quality, will be here in the final group. Also including Jordan Coyle, Erynn Ballard, Rene Dittmer, the Hampton Classic champion Bluman, back this time with Ubilux, Stephanie Macieira and HFB Swarovski. Getting towards the end of the draw, Blythe Karolyi comes back with Theo Duc. We've got Mimi Gochman. Mimi's been having a very, very good week with us here. We've got Vicky Gulliksen and Cum Laude, having decided not to go in the Grand Prix last night. Vicky and that new partnership, Cum Laude, will come towards the end of the draw. Michael Duffy, Thaisa Erwin, part of that split for the podium last night, alongside Marilyn Little, Carlos Hank, and Nayel Nassar and Igor will be our last to go. And of course, Nayel in the mix last night as well with ESI Ali, and Nayel having a very good week because he was also, of course, in the podium of our Adequan WEF Challenge on Thursday lunchtime. So a good week for him. Could be capped off here by a success in the Hèrmes 1.50m Classic, and this is a series in which Nayel, amongst others, sits on the leaderboard as we go into this 9th week of sport. So just to remind you, the Hèrmes 1.50m Championship Jumper Series coming into Week 9 has Erynn Ballard and Bluman as our joint leaders on 131 points. Richie Vogel sits 3rd, 123. Nayel Nassar, 121 points. And Cian O'Connor sits 5th on 118 points coming into this 9th week of sport. So Gabriel Deats, Brazilian team rider here over the course of his time over many years at the Winter Equestrian Festival. Last 2 years running in particular. This horse commander HKZ was in action here during 5-star week back in Week 7 of international action. Alan Wade's final course of the week, including that Hèrmes jump itself. Just going up towards the in-gate, steadying then for the Fidelity on the line. Very, very tricky. I mean, the Bainbridge triple combination, it is Bainbridge week, is always going to be an influential jump. He's got it pretty much mid-course there, coming as it does in at fence 8, A, B and C. But just rolling on down the distance from the Southern Arches, I think he set it up on quite a precise moment there. I'm not much mistaken as well, you know, one stride. We're so used to having a 2 or a 1 or a 1 or a 2 stride in there in a triple combination. So just the balance and the pinpoint accuracy required for a one stride is, you know, a real aspect of this course and the question being asked. 4 for jumping, 2 for time for Trailblazer Gabriel Deats and Commander HKZ. And of course, the one thing about this format, the winning round, is that we don't know for sure that we're saying goodbye to a competitor until we get a little bit later on in the class. And it is then that we start to look for our 12. Daniel Bluman, then Daniel and Abigail Wexner's Hummer join us. Daniel, Olympian, as I say, 5-star winner here at the Winter Equestrian Festival, and taking some very, very prestigious wins right around the world, including the Rolex Series Grand Prix a few years ago of Rome Piazza di Siena. And again, when you break out this distance and kind of start to look at it at a slightly higher level, you see he's got, you know, a sort of a chevron there. He's got 2 fences going up one side of the chevron, then you work through the right shoulder, and he's got another 2 fences going on the next direction. And that's sort of, it's kind of a way of looking at the course as well, just to take that slight step back and start to look at it from a higher level than just jump to jump, single line. This is jumping very, very well here for Daniel. Daniel, one of the 10 highest ranked riders on the world rankings, with us for last night's Bainbridge Grand Prix. Week 9 champion in his time as well here. They just raises the hand. He really gets the horse back and set for that final fence. You know, you get the sense there from the way Daniel Bluman had to ride it that it's a potential heartbreaker there if you just roll down a little bit free. Daniel and Hummer, though, are clear round number 1, 68.42. But remember, even if we had 12, 13, 14, 15 clear rounds, only 12 come back. So you also need to think, how fast are the rest of the field? How fast do I need to go? Raleigh Hiler and Lennox von den Biskup. Suzanne Hansen and Father Kurt Hiler in the ownership of this one. Great to see Raleigh give us one of those first clear rounds last night in the Bainbridge WEF 9 Grand Prix. Just a little bit of a rattle there off the Hèrmes at the top of the ring. Balancing line up to the Fidelity. There again, I think, you know, again, this big horse just set himself up a tiny bit against you. You could see Raleigh there was just looking for a little bit more of a standoff position for the first part of the Bainbridge, but this horse just, he went very, very rhythmically. He's like a metronome down the distance, but it just wasn't the adjustment that Raleigh needed. So taking that rail. Very, very lucky there with the plank because they are so light on flat cups, these planks at this end of the sport. Time of 73 seconds going to be absolutely fine. 71.10 and second best at the moment with just the 4 faults. But of course will be overtaken by all of the subsequent zeros, and that will be what decides who comes back to us as our best 12. So as I say, the day not guaranteed to be over for Raleigh, even with that rail. And of course, if anyone makes it back into the winning round, they'll start again from 0, which creates a really dynamic structure. Of course, if you start with faults, if you're slow, you will be jumping early in the winning round, but it doesn't mean you can't move up. So first of 2, as we heard from the start list for Tom Wachman. Let's say Tom, brother Max, sister Alice have been real features here of the Winter Equestrian Festival over the last number of years. Tabasco top 5 in the World Cup qualifier up in Central Florida in Ocala just over a year ago. Having been also just off the podium in the WEF 9 Grand Prix this week last year. But unfortunately, the Hèrmes fence goes there on the turn. And as I say, it's one of those moments because you could jump the Moden fence at the end of that line and be riding through your right shoulder in through what we were calling that chevron approach. And just find that you hadn't quite got your position in the ring 100% right. It's very, very light rails. It's always a visually quite interesting fence, that Hèrmes jump. And Tom, overall, you know, he's not moving massively fast here. So, you know, that would be to the advantage of Raleigh Hiler as things stand at the moment. 71 on her clock. Tom is going to be that little bit slower. Is he going to be in trouble with an overall 73 time allowed? He is. So Tom Wachman, Tabasco de Toxandra will have 4 on each side of the code. 4 for jumps, 4 for time, for a total of 8. Just looking across at the screen to ensure he sees the countdown. That means he has the tone and can proceed. Nicola Philippaerts. Belgium with a fantastic team result last year with the gold medal at the European Championships at A Coruña. Nicola part of that team. Having a very good North American season with a horse called Gadget Mush. Derby de Riverland was no slouch either. And of course also Katanga van Het Dingershof over here at the moment. The very, very experienced 5-star Katanga is the winner of the Le Ball Rolex Series Grand Prix last year for Nicola. One of the few Rolex Series Grand Prix across the year not won by a US rider, to be honest. With Carl Cook, Aaron Vale, Laura Kraut all taking victories on the Rolex Series last summer. Got a nice sense of, you know, the pace here and that balancing act, you know, really threading the needle between wanting to be fast to try and ensure that your clear is good enough to come back and come back fairly late in the winning round, and of course not increase the risk so much that you end up pulling an unlucky rail. 69.12 on the clock. Nicola is not only clear, he's our second clear round, but he's very, very close in time to Daniel Bluman. It would take a little bit of going, I think, to get between them and whether anyone is going to get faster than Daniel Bluman, because both Daniel and Nicola hugely experienced and a real, I would say, consciousness of the format of this class and what it's going to take to try and maximize their chances of success. So coming into this week in the Michael Smith $25,000 leading international rider bonus standings, Shane Sweetnam was out in front with $219,000. Of course, changes will have happened throughout the week with many world ranking classes like this one, worth in excess of $60,000 total prize fund and over $500,000 in prize money last night in the Bainbridge Company's Grand Prix. Olympian from Ireland, Shane, with the Sweet Oak Farm operation, his operation here in the United States. This is Balu H. It just looked a tiny bit like the horse stalled. Maybe, you know, again, turning, looking at that line, looking over towards the NetJets landing corner, conscious a tiny bit of the ingate. I know I keep talking about it, but especially these horses that are here in this ring for kind of 12 weeks, you know, they're not silly. They know their environment. They're fast learners, horses. But just something got Shane and Balu a little bit off their moment, and they didn't clean out over that back rail at the Hèrmes. A little bit close in and just quiet in front. Up to the double, going across the ring by the gazebo. So it's going to be a grand total of 12 faults. We inside the time we are 72.10 for Shane Sweetnam and Balu here in the final 5-star class of Bainbridge Company's Week 9. Our thanks so much to Hèrmes for sponsoring this Meter 50 Classic and Meter 50 Classic series. Of course, the well-known fashion house has its origins in equestrian sport and indeed in US equestrian sport as well. The Lionel Garand Hèrmes Trophy, one of the most prestigious US equestrian trophies, and often presented here to that outstanding young rider during the course of the Spring-Winter Equestrian Festival. Michael Morrissey joins us with Incento. Michael, who was just on the bubble for a starting position in last night's Grand Prix. He elected, in fact, I think when the place was offered, not to take it up, and just puts himself then forward for this Meter 50 Sunday Classic. Incento has been a top 10 finisher in Grand Prix here in Winter Equestrian Festival before now. Michael riding for Ash Atkinson. And just gave that a solid clunk. So, I mean, the Hèrmes has been down 3 times. I think twice the front and once the back rail so far. And you know, if that's not clever course design, if that's not the designer thinking incredibly holistically about the sport, making the Hèrmes a difficult challenge, a difficult line, thinking, well, that's going to make commentators like John have to talk about it an awful lot. That's good for the sponsor. So Michael and Incento just over the time, 71.74. It is 4 faults at the moment. It's worth 4th place, just behind Raleigh Hiler. But with our top 12 coming back, is it going to be enough?
Winning rider from last night's 5-star Grand Prix, Ireland's Darragh Kenny are next to go. Hopefully trading a sales entry is Mount, the 12-year-old Macieira II.
So fresh off victory last night, Darragh Kenny. Darragh, who again is one of our top 10 riders on the world rankings to be with us in last night's Grand Prix, but that score and points tally will move him up in next month's Rolling Rider rankings. Darragh, Oakland Training and Sales 0K here, the Danish Warm Blood mare by Cannon this morning. The Hèrmes and the following fence down for a very, very quick 8 faults here for Darragh, and that's equestrian sport. You're riding high in April, you're shot down in May, as they say. So just the one to go here to bring Darragh Kenny home. It is going to be the 8 faults in 71.12 for Darragh. It goes into 6th place already at this early stage of the competition in our Hèrmes Meter 50 Classic. I have to say, you know, the companion class to this Friday's Meter 50 was a tough go. Many fewer clear rounds than we might have expected, although it was a course that line after line asked significant questions. And so it is a little bit proving here today in what you would class the finale of that Meter 50 tour, the Hèrmes Classic. So Bliss Heers next to go. Farinho Demek, the ride for Bliss, who was up at Thunderbird in Langley, British Columbia last year as part of the US Nations Cup squad. She's been a 5-star Grand Prix winner and on the US panel at the likes of Aachen in Germany and Falsterbo in Sweden for Nations Cup contention. Farinho, a Carigno-bred horse out of a Canon mare from the Sol Francais stud book. And I'm just starting to analyse this because you look here, Bliss puts herself a little bit left of centre at the Moden jump, and maybe that's something that we're going to start seeing people maybe feel that they want to take one extra stride there, be really sure of the turn and the stride and the approach up to the Hèrmes and the fidelity. It's all good at the moment, and you know, you start to have ticking through your mind, do we actually end up with 12 clear rounds? So far, what we've seen, maybe already about a quarter of the starting field, and yet we only have those 2 clear rounds. This is going to be our 9th round of jumping out of what I think is just over 40 that we expect here this afternoon. Remember Daniel Bluman being very, very conscious and deliberate about his position and his pace down to that final one. And she couldn't afford to take a pull the way he did. She has to settle for 2 for time. So Bliss Heers and Farinho Demek, it comes home 2 seconds over, or fraction of 2 seconds over, 74.12 on the clock. So it goes into 3rd. Every single clear inside the time will overtake her, but Bliss now, that could be enough. That could come back as one of the 12 best scores here off the initial round. So a combination we saw in this ring last Sunday in the 4-star Nations Cup Grand Prix. Olivia Cliver with Conter. Conter has been a contender in the Winter World Cup season at the likes of Santa Anita and Thermal out on the west coast. So we get the thump, but it stays. Also worth noting about the fidelity is that it has got those skinnier rails, plain white as well between the big fidelity wings. And again, a little bit like one of our predecessors coming down the ring, I think it was actually Raleigh, stayed in a very, very nice rhythm, but actually needed to have perhaps stepped in with an adjustment to just get the first part of the Bainbridge right. The horse tapping the rail then just maybe backed him off enough from the B and C element, or maybe just got Olivia herself to sit up that tiny bit and react, and they clear out over the other 2 parts. But coming home with 4. But, you know, it's all to do with experience as well, because you sit on a horse in a really nice rhythm and you don't want to touch the tack too much. 72.69, it is going to be 4 faults, and Olivia into 6th place.
Classic, 2 penalty free so far. Daniel Bluman and Nicola Philippaerts II again is the top 12 to return for round 2.
Timm now of Canada, Canadian Nations Cup rider riding for the Rain family here. This is Atomica de Sequoia Sense.
So first of the entries we'll see for the Rain family of Raleigh, North Carolina. This is Canadian Kyle Timm, Atomica de Sequoia. So 2 clear rounds at the moment. Daniel Bluman and Nicola Philippaerts, 2 absolute stars of the sport. But this man should also be ranked amongst them. He does a great job with a wide variety of horses, and it's actually the wall. The wall is one of those things that we talk about an awful lot. We kind of focus in on. We haven't seen that wall in the ring, for instance, this week in 5-star jumping, and yet very infrequently does it have a huge impact on a class. But so very disappointing for it to have an impact on Kyle. As I say, enormously experienced in the equestrian world, having worked in both hemispheres, both sides of the Atlantic, grown up in the shadow of Spruce Meadows in Calgary, Canada, and just creates astounding relationships with horses. So still just going to be the 2 clears, and remember, right behind them, Bliss Heers with clear but 2 for time. This is going to be an 8. It's going to be a pretty fast 8 in 69.83. And whilst it is the fastest 8 vaulter, it goes into 8th place. A lot of 8s in that sentence, my apologies. But for the moment, that means that Kyle Timm probably knows that with Atomica de Sequoia, he won't be back for the winning round here in the Hèrmes Classic this week.
Back for Canada, Erynn Ballard up next with a round aboard Elon Fergers in New York. 12-year-old Swedish bred mare, Blythe Karolyi.
Another of our Olympians, Erynn Ballard, joins us now. Erynn, another rider having a super season. She'll be knocking on the door of top 10s in a lot of the standings, like the International Rider Bonus standings, $25,000 presented by Michael Smith, and this Hèrmes Meter 50 Championship Jumping Series. And of course, the overall Leading Lady Rider Award standings. Thaisa Erwin taking the Martha Jollycourt Leading Lady Rider last night with the points across the WEF Challenge and Grand Prix. But on the same thing, the same platform across the 8 weeks so far, Erynn Ballard sitting 2nd just behind Lily Keenan on the season-long Leading Lady Rider standings. Erynn and Dior just a couple of fences away from maybe being our 3rd clear round. 68.42 is the fastest time. She might just have that as well. No, she's not going to quite get there faster than Daniel Bluman, but it's good. It's 70.41 seconds. It is our 3rd clear round and goes 3rd behind Daniel Bluman and Nicola Philippaerts. Again, so early to say at the beginning of the class whether Daniel and Nicola are really going to be the ones that we have to shoot at and try and beat for the whole class, but it seems more and more that way. That was a really regular forward round from Erynn Ballard, and she couldn't quite get there. She's not far off, but she couldn't quite get there. And really, even if it's 100th of a second, it sets the ranking for round 2. So it just leaves us, I think, without a customer for a moment. Here's our next, I think, walking in onto the Wellington International Rolex Bridge. Daniel Bluman, Nicola Philippaerts, Erynn Ballard are our 3 clears. Erynn just walking out of the ring. Elena Haas joins us again, another native of California coming from the West Coast. to compete here through the spring at Winter Equestrian Festival. She has been a US team rider at some of the European developmental shows and the developmental shows here in North America as well. Elena here with Casino Royale, last in action at this level in the 4-star Grand Prix towards the end of February up in Central Florida. Jumped the World Cup at Ocala this year as well, this spring. Actually had a pretty good winter with us in the Winter Series, culminating in the Holidays and Horses 4-star week here at Wellington, Florida as well. So Elena really kind of all in on the East Coast at the moment. And that's sometimes the nature of the sport. You know, you can get your Kents or your McLains flying across to the West Coast for the likes of the Thermal or the Santa Anita World Cup qualifier. But in reality, the mere mortals of the sport kind of have to choose a coast to base themselves on for a while or for a season. So coming in on the 0 score, going to be a fraction slower yet. So each clear we get is slower than the one previous. So our 4th clear goes into 4th place. But that is a nice day's work for Elena Haas and Casino Royale here in the opening meter 50 round. But does it also signal that maybe we've got the message through? Trainers and riders out there have looked at the course. They've understood which of the 2 options that might have been in their mind is turning out to be more consistently successful. On the one hand, you would say that this man doesn't need to look at too many other people to refine his plan, and yet he is such a student of the sport that he will have watched very carefully and will have refined his plan. McLain Ward and First Lady. McLain, 5-star Grand Prix winner with us here this season, taking the Week 7 Grand Prix. He's also part of the winning US team here during Week 8 of sport. And as ever, putting together a fantastic string of horses at the moment, with the likes of Jordan Mulga, High Star Hero, Le Louvre, First Lady. You know, again, for all of McLain's undoubted style, he's incredibly stylish and elegant in the saddle, but he is enormously effective as well. Gets the job done. It is 71 on the clock, 71.10. That is going to go into 4th place, pushing Elena down, but now we already have 5 clear rounds. We're not quite at the drag break, and McLain and Robin Parsky's First Lady join the potential starting list for the winning round. And I think we've got our first couple that we know their day is over. That's Shane Sweetnam, Tom Wachman, and on the bubble at the moment, Darragh Kenny with 8 faults. Stephanie Macieira and Toulouse van Prinsenveld. Riding for Bonchance Farm, this one by Tangela van der Zoethoven. Stephanie, one of the 2 riders, jumped double clear for Brazil in last week's Nations Cup. Nick Granat and Steve Stevens delivering a super night of team versus team sport here for Saturday Night Lights of Week 8. So this is coming home, and it's coming home fast as well on the clear. Not going to be quite faster than Dan Bluman. 70.69 goes into the mix, though, in 4th place, pushing McLain and Elena Haas further down the ranking. And suddenly, after a relatively slow start, we are already up to 6 clear rounds. So now your thinking moves to, do we draw a line in the sand at about 70 seconds? Is that what's going to make it back? Are we going to get so many clears that we're throwing some of them by the wayside and taking back only our best 12 based on time? And that could change people's approach to this class now. It's not going to be enough, as it might have felt a few turns at the handle ago, to just go clear. Now you need to be clear and fast, and trying to go fast, we might see, you know, unlucky rails. So as I said, another Rain family entry. This time it is for French rider and Rolex Series Grand Prix winner Nina Mallevaey. This is My Clementine, the Irish sport horse by OBOS Quality. It's a beautiful, quick in front jump off the ground over that wall. A little bit of a peck on landing, but Nina, you know, for her, a rollback turn like that around the left shoulder is all the time and space in the world to rebalance the horse, set up for this line. Very impressive French National Championship win last year, amongst many other accolades, that has seen Nina move into the world's top 10 in just a few months of leaving the U25 rankings of the sport, where she was for a long time the #1 ranked U25 rider in the world. You know, and what a string at the very top as well. Dynasty de Beaufort and Nicky van der Bisschop. So 68.42 is the fastest clear. This is, oh, is it going to be just behind? It is 69.37. It'll actually just be bested by Daniel Bluman and Nicola Philippaerts. Nina goes into 3rd, but it is our 7th clear round, and now you start to feel certainly the clears on 72, 71 seconds have to already start to, you know, be feeling their collar sweating a little bit under pressure. Southern Archer's entry is Callie Schott, Callie and Ironics. Five-star Grand Prix winner Callie at the Thermal Major League leg in California just before Christmas. She took a runner-up spot in a 5-star at Thermal this spring as well, the spring of this year, and double clear in our Nations Cup here last week for the USA's winning team. That was with Garant also. So again, we were hunting for the clears earlier on. Now we have an absolute plethora of them. Callie Schott and Ironics are not going to be clear. The front rail off the very last here, unfortunately, in 70.72 seconds. So that goes into 9th. That could be a very, very expensive rail. Already, Bliss Heers clear with time, sits in 8th. Our slowest clear, Elena Haas, sits in 7th. And there are only 12 tickets to the winning round. So Blythe Karolyi, Blythe, first of two for her in our drawn order here for the Hèrmes meter 50 today. Actually, we're just going to have Blythe and Laura to take us up to the break. Blythe here with the Evento Farm Flower Z. And the fidelity on that line, again, it's a line we were talking about quite frequently earlier on. So there's clearly there's a technical demand being set by the designer there that potentially goes all the way back to the Palm Beach Equine at the bottom of the line. You jump the wall, you turn around, you come away from the Blue Ribbon Club, and you jump the Palm Beach Equine Clinic to Modon, and then move through the right shoulder, as we've been talking about in this chevron, up to Hèrmes and fidelity. The fidelity comes down for Blythe. So 12 for jumping, it'll be 1 for time as well, steady across the ground for Blythe Karolyi and Flower, which of course is going to put them straight out of contention. Should also be worth mentioning that everything higher than a 4 is out of a ticket-taking position for the winning round. So Olivia Cliver and Conter, 4 faults in 72, sitting on the bubble at the moment in 12th. So Laura Kraut, Laura joining us with Callie here today for St. Brian's Farm. Long-term and very loyal owners for the US World and Olympic gold medalist. Top 10 finisher last night in our Grand Prix, top 5 finisher in fact, with Bisquetta, her Dublin Rolex Series Grand Prix winner, winning the Dublin Grand Prix with the only initial round clear, one of the rare times that Grand Prix has gone without a jump off. But a very, very worthy class and worthy winner. Callie, horse that was on the podium in a Grand Prix qualifier at the 5-star Major League Show in December over in the Desert International Horse Park. Nicely through the triple combination line again. Not being too influential. We've seen quite a few just roll down and end up being unlucky and just not having the adjustment made to get them to the first part on the perfect spot. Not setting up to say not too many imperfect spots from Laura Kraut, but unfortunately, and you just see her sitting up there again. It was just that moment of asking Callie and not really getting the answer. As she came up to the plank. 70.01 on the clock, 4 faults for Laura and St. Bride's Farms Callie, and that is the fastest 4 faulter. It goes into 9th though at the moment, so it is a little bit, I would say, assured that we won't see them back. We have another group to come after a short break. We were expecting the drag to just come after Laura Kraut. I think we're just going to take another competitor here. Yeah, Mark Bluman joins us with SNL Hello Sunshine for SNL Farms. So Mark Bluman, Grand Prix winner here in his time at the Winter Equestrian Festival. Old Bluman family are, you know, part of the furniture here in South Florida during the first 3 months of the year. back very close to a 5-star victory, of course, 2 weeks ago in WEF 7 with Landon Denise. Hello Sunshine, a 2-star Grand Prix winner up in Greenwich, Connecticut, just tail end of last September. Nice to see the horse moving up then to 5-star meter 50, and you know that star rating, it's very, very critical to understanding what you're talking about when you say a meter 50 class, because a meter 50 at this level is different to a meter 50 at 4-star, different to a meter 50 at 3-star, different to a 3-star Grand Prix at meter 50, for instance. And it's, you know, that relationship between the jumps, the technical questions being asked by the designer. So Mark Bluman posts a fast 4. He overtakes Laura Kraut for fastest 4-fault honours and goes into 9th. Laura down to 10th. Ironics and Callie Schott in 11th. And Raleigh Hiler is the one on the bubble now as we go into the break with Lennox van den Bisschop. But already 7 clear rounds, that's quite a lot, so you definitely get the sense we're going to have in excess of 12 clear rounds, and with in excess of 12 clear rounds it's going to come down to time to see who will have their ticket to the second and winning round here in the Hèrmes Meter 50 Classic, the Sunday finale worth $62,500 from Bainbridge Company's Week 9 of the Winter Equestrian Festival. So more show jumping action to come here in the next few minutes. Do stay with us.
All set to get back underway with the second half of this $62,500 MS 150 Classic clears so far. And remember, it's top 12 to go through, but 7 of them on a 0 score, 19 remaining combinations. Several second rides to come here too, and this includes this one is Nicola Philippaerts of Belgium.
So Nicola Philippaerts is going to come back to us and get us back underway here in the Hèrmes 1.50m Classic here for Sunday at Bainbridge Company's Week 9. Nicola already maybe with a ticket to the second and winning round on 69.12 with early ride Derby to Riverland. This time he is going to join us with Cornetagos for Team Philippaerts and Family Lens. So Nicola already knows how to get around this track and get around it quite speedily. Only Daniel Bluman has been faster than him. Daniel actually gave us our first clear round and nobody has yet been faster. We've got a lot of clears. We've got 7 of them. So this is going to start to become quite a quick class in order to get your ticket booked for the second and the winning round. And I also think that the fact that the winning round format puts you back to 0 is not going to matter here today. I don't think anyone is going to be coming back who's got faults. Of course, the one closest to that is going to be Bliss Heers. Bliss, who was clear but with 2 for time. Just moves up nicely, this lovely grey horse Cornetagos. Still quite dark grey, just turned 10 years old at the beginning of the year, so will actually be physically 10 at some stage in the next couple of months. And Nicola and Cornetagos, well, they're a little bit slower than Derby to Riverland, and they are down towards the bottom of the clears. That is now going to join the order in 7th. It will push Elena Haas's slowest clear down to 8th. But remember, we only have 12 tickets, and already there are 8-0 scores. So I think there's going to be a few clears on the sidelines. So Darragh and Cosmos. Darragh unlucky earlier on not to make it here with a 0 score, but now he joins us with Cosmos. This horse that he rides for the Gochman family is going to be one of our winning horses here during week 9, giving Darragh the first win of the week, and of course his second win coming last night in the Bainbridge Grand Prix with Eddie Blue. WEF 8 Challenge winner, second in the WEF 8 Grand Prix. He was actually second in the WEF 8 Challenge, my apology. It was the 7th week that he won the WEF Challenge. He was second in the Classic on the final day, top 10 in the WEF 7 Grand Prix. You know, that is all going to be pushing Darragh up those world rankings going in when they're recalculated at the beginning of April. And look at this time. When we get the time come back to us, it is going to be 69.56. They're all stacked so close together there. Daniel Bluman just fractionally out of front, 68.42. Nicola Philippaerts, Nina Mallevaey and Darragh Kenny all on pretty much the same time. Darragh will go into 4th place though. So Kyle Timm is back to us. Kyle said had that first problem early on the course with his earlier ride. That was just down in the corner of the ring at number 2 in front of the Moden International Club. This time Kyle with the Rain family's Glamour de Chanu, a L'Arc de Triomphe bred from the Sol Francais stud book for the rider who his main base is in northern France. And now, as we get into the point where we're going to have a lot of clears and we're conscious that we need to be fast, that turn 2 to 3 is going to become much more influential, because they're going to have to start to think about that as one of the places where they could be a little bit tighter, a little bit more efficient, and that could easily impact then that very quick run of 2 pairs of fences. Looking good, just balancing here to the plank it was that caught out Laura Kraut and Bisquetta early on, giving them their 4 faults. Remember, there's a couple of 4 faulters still potentially on the start list for the winning round, as well as Bliss Heers 2 for time. But again, you know, that cycle changes now as we get yet another clear out. 71.41, Kyle Timm, Glamour de Chanu go into 8th. Nicola Philippaerts, Cornetagos, and Elena Haas's Casino Royale, both slower, holding 9th and 10th. So almost assured now that we are going to lose out some of our clear rounds. Kyle Timm and Glamour de Chanu will be hoping that they are not one of them.
Zoe Hank Conter and an entry for the Static Stables, 12-year-old mare, Morrissey,
So Tombola is the ride for Zoe Hank Conter for Stefex Stables of Wolverton, Belgium. So the Stefex Brussels Masters itself a show on the Rolex Series. The Rolex Series for 2026 starts here in just a couple of weeks' time with our Week 12 finale Grand Prix at the Winter Equestrian Festival this year, $1 million Grand Prix. As the Rolex Series finale joins with the US Equestrian Open once again. Zoe carrying 8 at this stage, and as I say, we already know that that is too much. It's a question for Zoe whether, you know, she carries on. For sure she knows she doesn't need to try and rush anymore, and that might be why you see a rider go all the way around, because they just want to, you know, have the opportunity to jump and adjust and take on the test set by an Alan Wade track with less of the pressure. So it'll be a time for 2, 8 for jumping, 1 for time for Zoe Hank Conter and Tombola here with us in our Hèrmes Meter 50 Classic. We had a run of clears there. We go back to Tom Wachman. Tom this time with the Coolmore Show Jumping's Pegasus. One of our early riders to go. Tom ending up with 4 and 4 with his first ride. Does he post the 0 here, and does he go fast enough to make it back for the winning round? Tom still on the 0 score. You just see him sitting up tall, getting the adjustment there. The horse throws the head a little bit as Tom sits against the rhythm, but that just changes it enough to get exactly the spot he wanted and needed through the triple combination line. .68 seconds fastest clear round. Tom is going to be, the way he's jumping, he's going to be clear. You'd call it right now. Is he going to be fast enough? Just over 70 seconds, 70.31. He goes into fifth. That could just be quite enough. We were starting to feel a little bit earlier on that 70 seconds might be a line in the sand that would divide our clears from otherwise. But actually, it seems like when we were talking about that, we were being having our mind bent by some very, very fast times from Daniel Bluman and Nicola Philippaerts. There are still only 4 sub-70 second times. Tom Wachman goes into fifth, and actually we're getting close now to losing clears from the top 12. Sitting on the bubble in 12th, this Bliss Heers with a clear with time faults. So Olympian Eduardo Menezes and H5 Sport Horses Mercentus. So we saw him with London Time last night in the WEF9 Grand Prix, sponsored by Bainbridge Companies, a combination that had jumped double clear for their country a week previously in the Nations Cup here, Florida Coast Equipment at WEF. Eduardo at the Bainbridge triple combination. Absolutely nails that. Jumping great here. That time though set by Daniel Bluman, nobody's going to get there. 68.42. Daniel Bluman looking set to come back here as our final rider with Hummer. This is going to be close, but 68.93. He will go into second place. The first time Nicola Philippaerts and Derby de Riverland have been moved down the order. But as I say, even with that very, very rhythmic, fluent forward round, Eduardo Menezes can't quite get there. It is just over half a second between Eduardo Menezes and Daniel Bluman for first and second in the rankings. As I say, it really only needs to be a 100th of a second because all we're doing is setting the order for round 2. But Daniel Bluman and Hummer in form to maybe take the Hèrmes here today. So McLain Ward, Le Louvre is his ride for this second appearance in the Hèrmes Classic today. McLain jointly owning with Susan Heller. So answering that question of the chevron up the ring from the Palm Beach Equine right the way through Hèrmes to Fidelity. Just getting to really know Le Louvre there, and you could see that in that moment over the Southern Arches where McLain knew Le Louvre would move to the right, so he absolutely set himself up in a position where that would be exactly the effect he wanted to achieve. Maybe a little bit more daring around that corner than he had been, for instance, with First Lady earlier on. First Lady is clear, but not super fast, sitting 9th on the ranking of clears so far. And McLain and Le Louvre, McLain this time conscious, yeah, we're going to need to be fast if we want to be in the winning round. And then you get into this situation that we talked about earlier on. When you go fast, you increase the risk. And look at this time. Super time, 69.67. He probably would have been faster if he'd still been carrying a 0 score. It is straight, unfortunately, out of the zone for the winning round into 15th for McLain and Lelouve. So Richie Vogel, con quality. Off and running, but on the back foot straight away. So 4 faults at number 1, and you see then that Richie goes right down to the Dodd Technology LED boards at the end of the ring by the Blue Ribbon Club. You know, the tenor of this round changes on a dime. Once he had that rail at number 1, Richie knew it was all over. And then he just moves into a completely different plan, a completely different reason to carry on with this horse here today. And again, it goes back to that, you know, there are infrequent enough opportunities to measure yourself against a tough, technical Alan Wade meter 50 track. So Richie Vogel and Con Quality will be 4 for jumping, 1 for time, but I think Richie, the calculator inside his head, said that he was always going to be not too worried about the clock, so that will come as no surprise, having gone out, you know, those wider distances as we saw. Jordan Coyle here, Jordan and Ariso for Elan Farm now. This, if it's clear, could be fast, could be competitive, and could be right up the starting list for the winning round. You know, even just looking at Richie's round a moment ago, you know, Jordan, super tight turn there back to the Palm Beach Equine Clinic fence. This is tough for him because, of course, he's got the horse going in a bitless bridle. They go in this very, very long outline, so the adjustment, bringing the horse and really putting it together for some of the distances on this are going to be quite tricky. Oh, he was in a lot of trouble there during the trip accommodation. He made it happen, but he really had to ride every stride of it. As I say, looking at the time, this has the opportunity to be in good shape. Jordan Coyle, Ariso, 68.42 to beat. He is miles in front. Look at this, 67.59. Daniel Bluman and Hummer, one of the first combinations in the ring, and finally they are overtaken. They're overtaken by Jordan Coyle and Ariso. As I say, sorry, I slightly missed only. He does ride quite a few of his horses in bitless bridles. He's just got a very, very simple bridle on this one. But as I say, he tries to keep out of the horse's head and neck's way right the way around. You can see him let him go in that long outline. Made life very difficult through the Bainbridge triple combination, and yet Jordan and Ariso faster than anyone else. So, I mean, almost mathematically, he is in. Jordan Coyle, even if every other rider went clear now, we should see him back. Erynn Ballard with Ilan Ferder's Fève d'Auteuil. Erynn already with a 0 score, sitting 8th with Dior early on. Eryn carrying the 4, jumps through this double just by the gazebo, and then again you just have this moment before you come up to the plank. The plank hasn't gone terribly often, but it is just waiting there. Interesting to see that one come down up in the corner again. Not one we've seen go terribly much, but for Erynn Ballard II picking up the rail there, just one from home up in front of the tiki hut here on the corner of the international ring. So Erynn Ballard II on 8 faults. Erynn will just have to wait and see now whether earlier ride Dior is going to make it back.
Rene Dittmer now of Germany, running also by Izabela Rusakov for the Hampton Classic Grand Prix winner. Rene Dittmer going with Brunson.
Rene Dittmer then with the ride for Izabela Rusakov. This is Brunson. Rene been over here on the North American circuit for a couple of years. He really arrived with a bang with the an incredible Winter World Cup series one year here in the North American League. And of course, as we just heard from Stephen Wild on the arena call, a really eye-catching victory in recent seasons of the Hampton Classic Horse Show Grand Prix on Long Island on Labor Day weekend. Rene just a little bit steady. That's the only thing you would say here. The way this competition has developed, this is not a pace that if we end up with more than 12 clears, and my goodness, we're there. Elena Haas and Casino Royale are out. Nicola Philippaerts and Cornetagos sitting in 12th at the moment. Rene Dittmer and Brunson, are they going to get time penalties here? 73, yes they are. So Rene and Brunson going to pick up 3 for time in 75.36, but again, I wouldn't say that he's going to look over the clock and be incredibly surprised. You saw the rhythm and the pace that he had picked up around this course, and he decided not to chase the horse. You know, riding there for Izabela Rusakov, it's maybe just something he's schooling and just turning around for her, and therefore, you know, there's no point in racing the legs of the partnership before it has really developed, and try and chase a ticket to the winning round here. So sensible riding there, it looks like, from Rene. So as we've just been recapping, we have already lost a clear round. That is Elena Haas. The time on the bubble is 71.84 for Nicola Philippaerts and Cornetagos. That would stop if he has overtaken Nicola, having 2 in the winning round. And we welcome back here Mark Bluman. Mark, who we saw just before the drag break. This is over the top stables. Ubi luck here for Mark. Time is competitive here. Mark Bluman and Ubiluk sighting in on the last. Jordan Coyle in the lead, 67.59. This is going to be just behind, but again, that mathematically is going to take up a place. Pushes Daniel Bluman, long-time leader, down into 3rd. 12 best clears coming back to us, and I would say at this stage, mathematically, Jordan Coyle, Mark Bluman, who we've just seen, Daniel Bluman, Hummer, and Eduardo Menezes can all start warming up their horses for the winning round. So second ride now for Stephanie Macieira in our Hèrmes Classic Stephanie clear earlier on with Toulouse van Prinsenveld. So the question becomes, can she make it 2 clears? I mean, it's almost, if she is clear, going to be at the cost of herself, because her Toulouse horse is in 10th at the moment on the rankings. Of course, that clear moments ago meant that Nicola Philippaerts will just have 1 in the second round, potentially. That's Nicola with Derby de Riverland, and Stephanie Macieira will also only have a maximum of 1 in the winning round. Toulouse will stay in 10th place because Swarovski here has taken the rail, and that will put them out of contention for a place in our winning round. Well, just that single rail against them, 71.43. You can see that outside the top 20 overall for Stephanie and Swarovski.
Here we go, coming up next with Iron Maiden, World Cup qualifier winner just a few weeks ago, where the 11-year-old gelding up on the Rocky Basilisk Farm, Lexington, Kentucky.
The winners of one of the legs of the WEF Challenge this year, that was actually during a 5-star week 5. Mimi Gochman joins us with her podium finisher from the Challenge here 3 days ago on Thursday. This is Iron Maiden. Meant that Mimi got to go late in the draw last night as well in our Bainbridge Company's Grand Prix. Still on the 0 score, just picks the horse up a couple of strides away from this double. Nicely done there from Mimi Gochman. And she'll be just moving. You saw her already actually starting her turn over that plank. Of course, it increases the risk. Is she going to come home here in a good enough time? It is actually in good shape, 67.46. It is not only in good shape, I had my eyes slightly off the overall leading time. Jordan Coyle and Ariso, 67.59. Mimi is faster. I have to say, you know, Jordan Coyle and Mimi Gochman, neither of them looked like they were racing around this course, but my goodness, smooth is fast. We saw that inside out proven by those 2 rides, and Mimi Gochman and Iron Maiden couldn't have looked smoother, and they have not been, or no one has been faster than them. Great round there from one of the most talented young riders in North America, and that has been the case right the way through her junior and equitation days as well. So the wonderful 5-star horse we know so very well from Sanne Thijssen of the Netherlands. This is Kamlode, partnering here with Victoria Gulliksen. Victoria, the Norwegian Olympian. She was a little bit unsure whether she would start last night in the Bainbridge Company's Grand Prix, as she has just not had the opportunity to ride and get to know this horse terribly much just yet. She elected not to go in the WEF 9 5-star. You see they're riding a big bowing line, and this is all going to be a little bit, you know, when you know the story, you can see a little bit how, you know, Victoria and Kamlode are finding out about each other, and just feeling the controls, and the fact that they ended up just coming off the bend and having to ride that big bending line to get the spot they wanted for the right hand chevron turn back, just says, A, you know, Victoria's a very great, very conscious rider and getting the hang of this horse, but it also just goes to prove that they are just starting to learn each other's language a little bit. Time-wise, they're not going to be trying here very hard. You know, already at 50 seconds before they jump through this double. And that, you know, it's a tough distance as well. And I would say that Victoria wasn't quite able to communicate what she wanted to cum laude there. But, you know, super horse, super rider. 4 for jumping, 1 for time for Vicky Gulliksen and cum laude, so a total of 5 for the Norwegian.
Well, as Michael Duffy here next to go, the run aboard is Zoe Hank Conter, 32, 12-year-old Australian gelding by cautious seat.
So first time we get to see Michael Duffy. Michael here with Cantano. Saw Michael in last night's Grand Prix as well. Finished off his finished off his Florida season a couple of years ago with a win on Miami Beach in the Global Champions, and of course that's coming up here in a few weeks' time in the area. But Michael's Cantano just takes exception to the wall down there. Interestingly, if I remember correctly, this horse actually in the same corner of the ring, but actually coming out of that corner across the ring towards the middle, just threw out the toys a little bit here earlier on in the week as well. So Michael, and no better man, is just going to very, very sensitively school this horse. There's something there that is getting under this horse's skin, and Michael is the perfect man to deal with it and school it and very sensitively try and coach this horse's confidence. You know, Cantano was a top 10 finisher in 5-star Grand Prix action here 12 months ago during WEF 25's week 5. You know, no stranger to the level, no stranger to the experience, no stranger to the ring. Here we are, just coming into the last. Of course, even the 4 for the stop was going to keep them out of the winning round, and the lot of time faults as he just came back. He wouldn't have picked up a massive pace either when he got back going. But Michael finishes the round with Cantano, and although he would have loved to have thought that he'd solved the problem between the other day and today, he gets the horse all the way around and has another set of data to sort of think about and work from in putting that horse together. So we've already seen Darragh Kenny, last night's winner. Thaisa Erwin comes forward now. Cobalina TN is her ride today, the rider who was an equal second on the podium last night alongside Marilyn Little. Marilyn's decided not to bring her horses forward for the Classic today. So it's just Darragh and Thaisa we see from last night's podium. This is a horse she rides for the owner of Hiler, her Olympic horse Michael Smith. So Michael with the $25,000 leading international rider bonus being awarded at the end of our 12 weeks.
for 72.70 for there for Thaisa Erwin and Coyle unchanged from top 12. Currently 12 spot, McLain Ward being Gochman the top of the 12. Sure of no place in round 2.
So Thaisa's 4 faults and 72.70 of course goes out of the opportunity to come back for the winning round. First Lady McLain Ward sitting there on the bubble in 12th, 71.10. How close are we going to get to 70 seconds as we get to our top 12? So 2 more. Carlos Hank, himself former world #1 ranked U25 rider, H5K's pleasure hero, an Olympian for Mexico. Carlos Hank in Paris in 2024. Early rail, unfortunately, for Carlos. Just takes a little bit of a spring off the ground at that Fidelity. Very, very quick, neat jumping horse. And Carlos obviously a little bit gutted by that early rail, because also just look at this horse's, you know, frequency of step, the swing as well of the horse's rhythm. You know, this is a naturally fast horse. He must have felt, especially, you know, with such a late draw as well, second last to go, that he could come in here and be really competitive.
It's the 4 fault, 71.25 there for Mexico's Carlos Hank. And H5K's pleasure hero.
Carlos Hank then posting that score of 4 in 71.25. So had he gone clear in 71.25, let's analyse that. He would have just gone outside the 12, but of course, yeah, he would have been going that little bit faster, wouldn't he, if he'd been on a clear all the way home. So final rider, Nayel Nassar and not ESI Ali, I've got that on the absolute brain, haven't I? Who went so well in our WEF Challenge and in last night's Bainbridge Company's Grand Prix. This is Igor van der Wittemore for Evergate Stables and Nayel for Egypt. You know, none less than his Tokyo Olympic partner here in Igor van der Wittemore. ESI Ali has been, of course, a very, very good horse for him over the last couple of seasons of Winter Equestrian Festival, winning a Grand Prix, top 10 at 5-star last year and top 10 at 5-star last night here. He was actually the fastest with faults in the initial round, just missing out on a place in the jump off, so taking the 10th spot. He's moving. No surprise, because as we said, we know you need to be pacey. It's not just about being clear, but the closer you can be to 70 seconds, the more chance you have. It's not just getting into the winning round, it's having a decent starting position. You want, if potential, you know, to be finishing about 7th, 6th in this competition, so you can see 4 or 5 go before you. And look at this, he is going to go very, very late in the draw. 68.93 for Nayel and Igor van der Wittemore. My goodness, it is equal fifth, the exactly same time as Eduardo Menezes and Mesentus. So we'll see what the order becomes for that pair. I think it goes back, if memory serves, to the order in which they jumped for the winning round. But it means that Stephanie Macieira will take the final slot. So Stephanie will jump first, having been clear in 70.69 seconds with Toulouse. McLain Ward, First Lady, miss out. Kyle Timm, Glamour de Chanu, misses out. Nicola Philippaerts, Cornetagos, miss out. And Elena Haas and Casino Royale. We end up with 4 clears on the sidelines, 12 coming back in the winning round format of our Meter 50 Classic, presented by Hermes, part of the Hermes Meter 50 Championship Jumper Series, currently being led by Erynn Ballard and Dior and Erynn, as we see, going to be second back in the ring. This is not just the qualifiers, but it is the starting order. Tom Wachman, then Darragh Kenny, Nina Mallevaey, Nicola Philippaerts, Eduardo Menezes, Nayel Nassar, Daniel Bluman will go 9th, Mark Bluman 10th, Jordan Coyle 11th, and Mimi Gochman with it all to play for there with Iron Maiden last to go. So a little bit of setup here. We've got a couple of fences to take out. It is not quite a jump off. It is a second round, a winning round. For sure it's a shortened course. For sure the time is going to be absolutely critical, and we will let the team here get that set up over the next few minutes, and we'll rejoin the action and take the final chapter of the 5-star story this weekend here at the Bainbridge Company's Winter Equestrian Festival's 9th week.
set to go into the second round of the Hèrmes Classic here this afternoon. Final five-star class of the week. Another very good top lineup to be battled here. 12 returning combinations. Stephanie Macieira, it is Erynn Ballard II, Wachman, Darragh Kenny II, Mallevaey, Nicola Philippaerts II.
So as you join us, we are moments away from the restart of the winning round format, Hèrmes 1.50m Classic. Stephanie Macieira is going to be our first coming back to us. So we go through our 12 qualifiers in reverse order of merit. They were all clear, so it is all about how fast they went in that initial round. Stephanie will be followed by Erynn Ballard, currently sitting second on the overall leading Lady Rider Award standings coming into this 9th week of sport. Of course, Thaisa Erwin taking this week's title on a week-long basis. Following Erynn, then it's going to be Tom Wachman and it's going to be Tom Wachman, Pegasus, Darragh Kenny, Cosmos, Nina Mallevaey, My Clementine, and Nicola Philippaerts Derby de Riverland. Nicola actually jumped 2 clears, but his earlier horse was just a little bit too slow for the cut. Eduardo Menezes and Mesentus, Nayel Nassar, Igor van der Wittemora, Daniel Bluman's Hummer, Mark Bluman's Ubiluk, Jordan Coyle, Ariso and Mimi Gochman and Iron Maiden. Nayel going late in the draw. He's actually got himself a great position there after the first few go in this 12-strong winning round. The Florida Coast Equipment Kubotas and the JTWG Arena Surface team just clear of the arena, and it means it is time for our first to go here in the Week 9, Bainbridge Company's Week 9 Hèrmes Classic. So Stephanie Macieira will show us the way with Toulouse van Prinsenveld, but all to play for. Of course, they've all gone back to 0. All that has happened based on faults in time in the initial round was setting this order of go. So can Stephanie, how fast can she go? What can she lay down here? And how high might she end up the final ranking? It's going to be starting up at the top of the ring, right in front of the in-gate, jumping what was the second last fence backwards, and then taking us into the course that has been laid out by Alan Wade. It'll follow the track 5, 6, 7, 8 BC, 2 parts of the Bainbridge triple combination, round the corner to 9 in front of the table bank, and then across the ring to a new fence 16. So the Hèrmes and Fidelity line remains on the course. Really, you can see her sort of scoot at this angle into the base of the Southern Arches as she tries to move up and really keep the pace on. Lugano here in front of the table bank, pushing across the ring. This is the final fence coming up on the winning round track here. 48 seconds the time allowed. That won't bother them. 35.58 is the time taken from Stephanie Macieira and Toulouse van Prinsenveld. And it looked good, I have to say. You felt every stride she was trying to get behind the horse, trying to ensure they never fell back off the pace she wanted to try and achieve. There are faster horses in here, but by going faster, they could have a rail down. They could be increasing their risk. So I think that's a really, really good start from Stephanie Macieira. So Erynn Ballard and Dio. Erynn on the leaderboard of the Hèrmes 1.50m Classic Series as well, but not just in the top 5 coming into this week. That could change here, and again a rider super determined to make the most of her one shot here. All the experience. Erynn so busy riding so many different horses week in, week out, and gets a fantastic tune out of them as well, week in, week out. 7, 6, 5 seconds left. Surely she's going to go into the lead here. Jumps the Ida Developments fence, and that is your new leader, a time of 33.15. We get faster and faster from Stephanie Macieira, the lead overtaken now and taken up by Erynn Ballard. So Tom Wachman, Tom who was double-handed in this class here this afternoon as well for the Hèrmes finale to week 9. He qualifies with Pegasus for the winning round. Just a fraction over 70 seconds from him in the opening round. As I say, we're going in reverse order. So we've seen the rider who was 12th on the ranking, 11th, and now Tom who was 10th on that ranking. Now we've already seen some of the dynamics with Erynn holding her position, minimum of 11th, but it's all going to be now whether Tom can hold his position and go into the lead by the end of his round. If Erynn or Stephanie finish it, oh no, and he's off as well. Unfortunately, Tom and Pegasus will be eliminated from the winning round. They will of course still finish top 12, but that is the moment. We saw Stephanie Macieira come around there from the Fidelity back to the Southern Arches fence and just, again, use the word, the horse just looked like he was scooting because Stephanie just got the engagement and she moved up to that jump really well. I think Tom was trying something the same, but it just didn't work out. Pegasus just didn't react and quite understand and just threw on the brakes, threw out the anchor, and unfortunately Tom pays the price with a trip to the JTWG footing. So Tom and Pegasus unfortunately eliminated, but as I say, they cannot be overtaken for a place inside the top 12, having qualified for this winning round. Darragh Kenny and Cosmos just having a little bit of a look at this turn from the two remaining parts of the Bainbridge triple combination line to the Lugano. I mean, it's a turn they've ridden before, but of course conscious now that he wants to take it that little bit sharper, that little bit faster. In the background we see Tom and Pegasus just walking out of the ring, both of them. Tom there will have been very, very conscious to make sure his horse was okay, joined by his groom, and walking out of the ring. So could Darragh make it 3 wins this week? He's already the winner earlier on this week of a class with this horse Cosmos. He won, of course, the F9, Bainbridge Company's $500,000 Grand Prix last night. And he has a very good chance of taking the Classic today. No, he doesn't, not anymore. So Erynn Ballard and Dior, remember, as a partnership, were the 11th best qualifier. They now are going to finish in single digits. They're going to be 9th or better, guaranteed. You wouldn't believe I failed maths at school. So 35.33, a time that would have been just faster than Stephanie Macieira, but not quite there for Erynn Ballard. But again, early rail for Darragh. Had he been trying all the way around, Erynn Ballard's time might have been under a little bit more pressure. So Darragh into 3rd at this stage. So we've seen our first 4 of 12 qualifiers for the winning round.
So our 5th and 12 for the second round, 33.15 at the top of the peak.
So Nina Mallevaey making it through to our winning round with My Clementine. Already 2 double clears, Stephanie Macieira and Erynn Ballard. And faults for the 2 boys on International Women's Day. This is a good horse for this level of the sport. It's nippy, very, very comfortable at metre 50. And a great pilot aboard as well in Nina. It's a lovely, you know, where we were talking about Stephanie and a little bit Tom Wachman just trying to move up a little bit to the Southern Arches. Nina just came around on a really forward shot, super smooth. She is tight through the left shoulder here. She is on a good spot to Lugano. Has she quite got enough to get in front of Erynn Ballard? It is close, and I think it's no cigar. Yeah, it is a fraction of a second down, 0.96 seconds, so 34.10 is the time taken for Nina Mallevaey and My Clementine.
With that time of 33.15.
Tiers to another regular winner here now is Nicola Philippaerts of Belgium, and certainly with this horse has got the pace. Erynn Ballard leads on 33.15. Nicola Philippaerts, Derby to Riverland.
So Nicola and Derby here. So Nicola, I think the only rider maybe to have produced 2 clear rounds. His other one just a little bit too slow to make it back as one of the 12. So he's all in on Derby to Riverland. Can he make it count? Taking us to halfway, he is the 6th of our 12 to see. Yeah, he was really hard on the reins coming into the Hèrmes. He was very, very forward and good around his turn. But actually, when he came up to the Hèrmes, he knew he really needed to try and get his horse back to him. And he locked in his hands. He got a great job. He got the Hèrmes. But it just took so much temperature out of the pace that the fidelity wasn't going to happen. So I did developments to finish the round with more than 5 seconds over the time. 38.51 with the 4 falls for Nicola Philippaerts. So that goes into 5th place so far. Erynn Ballard up from 11th now into what should be 7th position at least. 7th, 8th, 9th guaranteed. Erynn Ballard, Nina Mallevaey, Stephanie Macieira are 3 double clears. So with Micentus for H5 Sport Horses, Eduardo Menezes, the Brazilian rider, went very well in some of the Mexican winter circuits. A great run of shows at the highest level there through the likes of November, December. And of course, looking forward in a couple of weeks' time to the Global Champion Show in Mexico City as well at the Campo Marte, Olympic equestrian venue of the Mexico City Games. This could be our first double clear from a male rider. The women have had it all their own way so far. Eduardo, is he going to be fast enough? 28.29 on the clock, 33.15 to beat. He is close, and I think he's just got it. He has not. 34.38, 1.2 seconds back. It looked incredibly close from Eduardo, but one of the things that the riders have to be very, very conscious of is where those timers actually are, how far you need to press on beyond the last fence. 34.38 for Eduardo Pereira, goes into 3rd, takes a podium spot at the moment, splits up Nina Mallevaey and Stephanie Macieira.
Coyle and Gochman, the remaining 5. Nayel Nassar to go now with his long-time championship partner, the Egyptian rider with the Evergate Stables, Igor.
So Igor van der Wittemora and Nayel Nassar, the Olympic partnership from Tokyo for Egypt, the last to go in the initial round and punching their ticket in the top half of the draw for the winning round. Out of this group though, Daniel Bluman, Mark Bluman, Jordan Coyle, Mimi Gochman and Nayel, of course himself. Will anyone be able to go faster than Erynn Ballard's 33.15? Again, huge experience that Nayel can try and bring to bear here with this horse right up to the highest level of the sport. blistering pace across to the southern arches. He actually then just changes gear to get him to the Bainbridge and moves up again. Like, this horse's adjustability up and down through the gears and the paces is very, very impressive. And look at this, it stays in the green, does it? No, my goodness, 0.19 of a second. 33.34 for Nayel Nassar, but no one so far able to catch Erynn Ballard. 11th best of the clears coming back. She is now up in the top half of the draw. As I say, we've got just a small group remaining. Daniel Mark Bluman, Jordan Coyle, Mimi Gochman. So Erynn Ballard has moved up into top 5.
15 in the world standings. Israel's Daniel Bluman, and next to go with Abigail Webster's Morrissey. 33.15, the time to beat.
So an incredibly early clear round. Daniel Bluman and Hummer. Daniel was the second in the ring and our first clear round, and it was good enough to stay for eventual 4th best qualifying spot. He just sailed a bit free out over that. You saw Daniel just land a tiny bit in a heap as a rider, which is not something you'd ever normally say about Daniel. But it might well have perked him up, got him really focused on the job now and focused on the way Hummer is going. I think that's the important point to make. Again, you know, we saw Darragh Kenny look at that line. That's kind of where this is going to be won and lost. And is it about to be all change here? No, again, they're getting very much closer, but it's 1/10 of a second, 0.1 for Daniel Bluman. Erynn Ballard remains our leader. Daniel in second. The Canadian Olympian ahead of the Israeli Olympian, ahead of the Egyptian Olympian, is our podium at the moment.
Right, moving down once again, it is Mark Bluman to go now for Columbia for the Overtop Stables of New York. And still that's time to be 33.15, as Jason said. This is going to be Ubela for Mark Bluman.
So now we are one round of jumping away from Erynn Ballard, moving up from 11th to a podium result guaranteed in this Hèrmes Meter 50 Classic. And Mark Bluman with 2 horses in the class, Ubela, the more experienced of the pair. And he uses that experience to be very, very daring on the first turn back to the Hèrmes. And again, has to be daring here. If he could carry on the pace he showed back to the Hèrmes and get this Lugano, he does. Mark Bluman, Ubela, 4, 3, 2, 1 second to go. Mark Bluman is done it, 32.77. Mark Bluman is guaranteed a podium result here for Columbia. Erynn Ballard is overtaken for the first time since she jumped, having had that relentless rise from 11th up to now 4th place minimum.
Combinations, this is out on this Jordan Coyle. Our next to go, the ride aboard Belmont Farms Racer.
So, going to be fascinating to see how this plays out. Jordan Coyle did not look fast, and yet at the time went ahead of a long-time leader. You know, he lets this horse go in a very long, low outline. It made them have to work very, very hard through the Bainbridge triple combination earlier on. You know, look at this, just lolloping around the top of the ring to pick up their pace and their line past the in-gate to the first. Now we see the temperature start to pick up a little bit. But is this partnership going to be able to go in front? It said you feel Mark Bluman was faster around that corner, but off the eye, I mean, you know, this didn't feel or look like the quickest round in round 1, and yet it was our second best. Much more comfortable with just the 2 elements of the Bainbridge this time. Jordan and Ariso, 6 seconds left as they jump the Lugano. He keeps the pressure on. He just touches the reins there a couple of times, and maybe that was the fraction, because look at that, 3 hundredths of a second for Jordan Coyle and Ariso. He might rue that moment, but again, Jordan would also probably tell you that if I hadn't done that, there's a good chance I'd have taken out the top rail of the Ida developments last. So, Mark Bluman is going to finish second best. Jordan Coyle is on the podium assured. Erynn Ballard can finish no lower than 4th, having been 11th coming into the winning round. All of those results, though, depend now on our final horse and rider pair, Iron Maiden and Mimi Gochman for the United States of America. The only US rider to make it through to the winning round. Can she make it a US win here on the final day? And as I say, a win for the women on International Women's Day as well. We had a very good podium at one stage earlier on before the boys started to get it back their own way. And Mimi, unfortunately, it's not going to be. The Hèrmes is down. It's victory for Colombia, victory for Mark Bluman and Ubeluk. Mark, who was victorious here in the Nations Cup Grand Prix of week 8, 12 months ago, will lead a podium that also has Jordan Coyle in the second step and Erynn Ballard and Dior taking the yellow ribbon for 3rd. And that's a super result for Erynn Ballard, of course, as we keep mentioning. 11th of the 12 coming through from the winning round, and her fast winning round clear, giving her a podium result in 3rd. Mimi Gochman, Iron Maiden, will finish in 9th spot, and it is going to be Colombia that will be victorious. Mark Bluman and Ubeluk taking the title in our final 5-star class of Week 9 Bainbridge Companies, the Hèrmes Meter 50 Classic. And it means that the next time we have 5-star jumping in this ring, it will be finale week. It will be week 12, leading up to that $1 million Rolex US Equestrian Open Series Grand Prix here, the finale of the Winter Equestrian Festival. Mark Bluman, Jordan Coyle, Erynn Ballard are our podium finishers. We had double clears also from Daniel Bluman, Nayel Nassar, Nina Mallevaey, Eduardo Menezes and Stephanie Macieira. Of course, double clear machine, Stephanie Macieira having jumped clear for her country. So too had Eduardo Menezes last week. Mimi Gochman with 4, Darragh Kenny with 4, Nicola Philippaerts with 4. And then it was that unfortunate fall for Tom Wachman, and Pegasus means that they will take 12th overall in the Hèrmes Meter 50 winning round. We'll hand out proceedings to the bowl and our arena announcers for this competition, Stephen Wild and Jason Porter. And of course, we'll have plenty more commentary coming up for you next week in week 10 of the Winter Equestrian Festival here from Wellington, Florida. Thank you so much for being part of our broadcasts this week, from Bainbridge Companies Week right the way through from Wednesday to today's Hèrmes Meter 50 Classic. We hope you've enjoyed it, and you'll be back with us for the gallop all the way to the finale. Bye-bye for now.
And your top rider on the afternoon for the Hèrmes Meter 50 Classic, top 50 in the world standings, picking up the blue ribbon with Ubeluk. Congratulations to Colombia's Mark Bluman. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we ask that you please rise if you are able and remove cover for the national anthem of Colombia in honor of our Hèrmes 1.50m Classic winner, Mark Bluman. Congratulations again to our top three in the field for the Hèrmes 1.50m Classic. Third award going to Canadian Erynn Ballard with the Dior. Ireland's Jordan Coyle second with a Riso. And the top call going to Mark Bluman for Over the Top Stables, Lake Ronkonkoma, New York with Ubeluk.